Okay, for the first group, Ms. Nathaya and Ms. Echaraporn on the topic proximal time method for approximation of solution to equilibrium problem over the set of fixed point of enriched non-expensive mapping. Okay, you can start.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today, our group will present proximal time method for approximation of solution of equilibrium problem over the set of fixed point of enriched non-expensive mapping. In our group, my name is Nathaya Pundyam and Echaraporn Yodjai.
The topic of this talk, fixed point and nonlinear mapping. Preliminary, enriched non-expensive mapping in Hilbert space. Contraction of the proximal mapping. The proximal algorithm for the equilibrium problem over the fixed point set. Next, mapping. Before preliminary, we will recall definition of the mapping. This inequality, we call contraction if there exists
ไม่เป็นไรหญิงมันไม่กล้องพี่ฟังอยู่
คือหนูได้ยินเสียงตัวเองประมาณแบบพูดไม่ถูกอ่ะ
ฮะหญิงได้ยินเสียงตัวเอง
ใช่หนูได้ยินเสียงที่ตอนนี้แต่หนูคิดถึงยินไหม
ใครเปิดไมค์ไม่มีใครเปิดจริงอ๋อพี่เหรอขอโทษ
Okay, continue. We call contraction if there exists k greater than or equal to 0. And we call non-expensive if k equal to 1, and we call repeat if k greater than 0. And next, strictly pseudo-contractive if there exists k in half open interval 0 and 1, such that this inequality. And the enriched non-expensive if there exists beta greater than or equal to 0. The norm such that the norm of tx minus ty plus beta of x minus y less than or equal to beta plus 1 of norm of x minus y. And next, lambda strongly monotone if there exists gamma greater than 0, such that inner product of tx minus ty and x minus y greater than or equal to lambda of norm of x minus y square. And next, monotone if inner product of tx minus ty and x minus y greater than or equal to 0. And pseudo monotone if inner product of tx and y minus x greater than or equal to 0, imply that inner product of ty and y minus x greater than or equal to 0. And in the same of pseudo monotone, if in this not include equal, we call quasi monotone. And next, equilibrium problem. Let's see subset of m-dimensional Euclidean space be a non-empty closed and convex set, and f be a bifunction such that bifunction at a point x and x equal to 0 for all x in C. The typical form of equilibrium problem is formulated by means of K-fan inequality and given as phi x star in C, such that by function f of x star and y greater than or equal to 0 for all y in C. And next, equilibrium problem include variational inequality as a special case if by function of fx equal to inner product of fx and y minus s, where f is a mapping, then the problem become to following classical variational inequality introduced by Stempertier like this. It's well known that X star is a solution of variational inequality if and only if X star equal to G lambda X star, where G lambda X star equal to projection onto C. And next, proximal mapping. Suppose that for all x in C and by function at x is proper lower semi-continuous convex and lambda greater than 0, then the following strongly convex problem has a unique solution, and this mapping is said to be proximal mapping of F. And next, when T is a mapping, the fixed points of T is set fixed T defined by x in C, Tx equal x. And if we find x star in fixed C, such that by function of x star and y greater than or equal to 0 for all y in fixed T, then T is a non-expansive mapping. And next, preliminary, we denotion this for Euclidean norm and this for the dot product of the m-dimensional Euclidean space Rm. A function f is called convex if for all x and y in Rm, and lambda encode interval 0 and 1. The following inequality convex combination of alpha. We call Z in Rm a subvariant of this function at x if f of y greater than or equal to f of x minus plus inner product of z and y minus x for all y in Rm. And next definition, normal cone if C subset of Rm is a convex and coset, we define a normal cone to C at a point Z in C is NC of Z defined like this. And definition 2, projection mapping. We denote the projection mapping on C by P projection C like this. And by function f is said to be gamma strongly monotone on C if there exists gamma greater than 0, such that for each x and y in C, a bifunction f and y plus bifunction f, y, and x less than or equal to minus gamma of norm of x minus y square, and Lipschitz type continuous on C with constant C1 and C2 greater than 0 if for each x, y, z in C, like this. And the mapping F is said to be gamma strongly monotone on C if there exists gamma greater than 0, such that for each x, y in C, inner product of fx minus fy and x minus y greater than or equal to gamma of norm of f minus 1 square. And given f is a mapping and by function f defined by function of x and y equal to inner product of fx and y minus x, then by function f is a gamma strongly monotone if and only if the mapping f is gamma strongly monotone. And next, if mapping f is Lipschitz continuous, then the bifunction f is Lipschitz type continuous with constant C1, C2, and L over 2 are equal. And the last, for all x in C and gamma greater than 0. The projection on C equal to proximal mapping of on C.
Next, I will talk about enriched non-extensive mapping in Hilbert space. SR when X is a linear norm space and T is mapping is said to be enriched non-extensive mapping if there exists B in the half closed interval and open interval and half open interval such that norm of B of X minus Y plus TX minus TY is less than or equal to B plus 1 with norm of X minus Y for all X and Y in N. When H is Hilbert space and C is subset of H, the mapping T is called demi-compact if it has the property that whenever sequence of UN is about the sequence in H and sequence of T mu n minus TUN minus UN is strongly convergent, then there exists subsequence of this sequence is strongly convergent. And the next definition, when H is a Hilbert space and C is called convex subset of H, a mapping T is called asymptotically regular on C. If for each X in C, we have a norm of T power n plus 1 X minus T power n X is convert to 0 for n convert to infinity. And the next lemma, when H is a Hilbert space and C is called convex subset, if the mapping U is non-expansive and the fixed point of U is not empty, then for any lambda in open interval 0 to 1, the mapping U lambda is defined by this is map C to C, has the same fixed point as U is as asymptotically regular. And next I will talk about contraction the proximal mapping. When we give lambda greater than 0 and mapping F is map from C to C and the G lambda X is projection on C for all X in C. F is a gamma strongly monotone and L is continuous on C when the mapping G lambda S is a projection on C is a contactive on C for lambda in open interval 0 and 2 gamma over L power 2. And the next definition, a bifunction C is said to be gamma strongly linked type continuous if there exists function alpha I. There exists a bifunction alpha I and a mapping beta I for I equal to 1 to P, such that for all X, Y, Z in C, we have bifunction between X and Y plus bifunction between Y and Z is greater than or equal to bifunction between X and Y plus summation I equal to 1 to P with inner product of alpha I and beta I, where beta I is Ki Lipschitz function and alpha I is a function satisfy that alpha I of X and Y plus alpha I of Y and X equal to 0. There exists Li is greater than 0 such that norm of alpha I less than or equal to Li time norm of X minus Y for all X, Y in C and I equal to 1 to P. And the next lemma, when C is a non-empty code convex set and bifunction F such that bifunction is a lower semi-continuous and convex for all X in C. we let that lambda greater than 0 and u lambda is called proximal mapping of x on C. Then we have inner product of u lambda x minus x and u lambda x minus z is less than or equal to lambda with a bifunction between x and z minus bifunction between x and u lambda x for all x in C. When we fix lambda in the open interval of this for all lambda in the when we fix mu in an open interval of this for all lambda in the open interval of this and T is not explicit mapping, we get that this inequality we hold. And the next proposition when C in n-dimensional Euclidean space and C is a non-empty closed convex set by function f with a lower semi-continuous and convex with by function between x and x equal to 0 for all x in C. Then we for all x in C the limit of u lambda x equal to x where lambda equal to 0. And next, I talk about the proximal algorithm for equilibrium problem over the fixed point set. In this topic, I define C is non-empty closed convex subset of Hilbert space, and T is an enriched non-extensive mapping with fixed point set that fixed point of T is non-empty, and by function is equilibrium by function, and F is a equilibrium by function such that for all C in C equilibrium by function between x and x equal to 0. We consider the equilibrium problem of x on the fixed point set of T such that finding x star in fixed point of T with by function equilibrium by function x star and y greater than or equal to 0 for all y in fixed point of T. And before next theorem, I give T is enriched non-extensive mapping when T is half closed and half open interval such that in inequality we hold, and when we give B is equal to 1 over mu minus 1 when mu is in half open interval and closed open interval, we get this inequality we hold. So I will define T mu x equal to 1 minus mu of x plus mu Tx. Then this inequality we hold. So I call T mu is non-extensive. The assumption 1, when f is continuous function and the by function is convex and f of x and x equal to 0 for all x in C, and by function is gamma strongly monotone and strongly limited type continuous, and the last condition for any sequence xn and yn in C such that xn convert to u and yn convert to u, we have limit of supremum of this inequality is finite when n convert to infinity. And the algorithm to let T mu is a enriched non-extensive mapping and f is a by function. Step 0. We showed x0 in C is arbitrary and set n equal to 0. And step 1. Give xn in C, choose lambda n plus 1 in open interval and compute xn plus 1 as xn plus 1 equal to u lambda n part 1 t mu x n and set n defined by n part 1 and go to step 1 again. And the next lemma, when t mu is a n is not expensive mapping with fixed point of t mu not equal to n not equal to n not empty set, and f is a by function satisfied by set assumption 1. The sequence lambda n is a subset of positive real number include 0 via sequence such that limit of lambda n equal to 0 as n convert to infinity and set n be a fixed point of mu lambda n t mu. U lambda n t mu, then limit of set n equal to x star as n convert to infinity, where x star is a unique solution of equilibrium problem of fixed point of t mu. And the theorem when t is n is not expensive mapping with fixed point t mu not include not empty and f is a bifunction as satisfy assumption 1. And sequence lambda n is a subset of positive real number include 0 is decreasing sequence such that limit of lambda n equal to 0 as n convert to infinity and summation n equal to 1 to infinity of lambda n is infinity and limit of this equal to 0, then the sequence xn generated by algorithm to convert to the unique solution of equilibrium problem. And next is a reference. Thank you.
Okay. Do you have any question?
Okay, thank you. If no any question, we will move to the next group.
Okay.
Okay, are you hear me? Okay. เสียงสะท้อน
ที่ไม่ได้ปิดไมค์ไงแบบ
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce ourselves. My name is Yuthaka Chumokon and Ulairat Dipan. Today, we will present studying single leader multi-follower problems using SOS1 reformulations. Okay. Next. In this outline, I will divide into 4 parts as follow. The first part is introductions. Second part is statement, problem statement, and single level reformulations. Third part is SOS1 days reformulations, and finally part is academics examples. Next, with that out of the way, I like to start with Nash equilibriums for N agents. N agent complete with equal priority and non-correlative. The structure of this game consists agents, decision, and objective functions. We let capital X is space of decisions vector of all agent for each new, and the X minus new is the space of decision vector of other player from the perspective of agent new. Their generic element denoted by this. Revise copper X new and X minus new is decisions vector of all agents. Next. Game theory. The game theory structure of the game consists of player, strategy, and payoff. And next. Okay. General framework of strategy of game consists N is a player, and X new is a strategy set of player new, and for each new belong to set N defined by F new is a cost functions of player news. Okay, next. From single leader multi-follower games that leader try to minimize cost functions by choosing assuming that the followers are in his favor. Will the follower respond optimally with Y in the same of Nash equilibrium to the leader decisions? We define definition 1.2. Let X be a decision space of the leader, and Y of new be a decision space of follower, and by Y belong to this is objective functions. The objective function of leader is defined by fees, and the objective function constraint mapping of follower defined by zeta v and kv respectively. In this is single leader multi-follower games. Next. Okay, the KKT conditions. The KKT condition consists of the following elements for an optimization problem defined by this, and there are 4 KKT conditions for optimal primal of X and del lambda variables. The asterisk star denote the optimal value. The first step, once primal feasibility is all constraint must be satisfied by this is feasible. And second, no feasible distance, no feasible objective improvement at the solution defined by this equal to 0. And complementary, the product of the Lagrange multiplier and the corresponding value must be 0. And fourth, dual feasibility, the Lagrange multiplier associated with constraint have to be non-negative. Okay, the feasibility conditions 1 applied to the both equality and inequality constraint and is simply a statement that the constraint must not be violent at optimal conditions. The gradient condition and step 2 ensure that there is no feasible direction that could potential improve the objective functions. And the last two conditions, condition 3 and 4, are only required with inequality constraint and force positive Lagrange multiplier when the constraint is active, and a zero Lagrange multiplier when the constraint is inactive. Okay, next page. In motivations, in this work, Axel's attentions center on the intermediate setting of single leader multi-follower games where there is a single leader and multi-followers. Their introducts a powerful technical for obtaining a single level reformulations of the single leader multi-follower game, employing special order set of type 1, briefly SOS1. Next, this technical originaries dating back to Blade and Tomlin, and first used in bi-level optimization by Fortuny, Ahmed, and Max Cort, level at the KKT condition of the lower level players. It reformulates the nonlinear and non-convex KKT complementarily condition using SOS1 conditions. And then this approach has gained increasing attentions in the recent years within the field of bi-level optimizations, notably in Kreinert and Shortmine, and finally, as it eliminates the need to determine RAT M value with its requirement when rewriting the KKT complementarily condition using additions binary variables at discretion in Kreinert et al.
Okay. In this work, we studying on the paper of Axel, right? This the goal point of this work want to solve the solution of the single leader multi-follower by using the on the state of the lower level. In the case of the leader have only one leader and the follower have and follower is a multi. In they use the KKT condition for change the problem of the follower changed by the KKT, and then they use the short one SOS1 reformulate for helping solve the solving the solution of this algorithm of this problem. So in next section is the problem state and single level reformulation. Axel proposed the short one maybe native tell you sort one this form is you can call this spatial orderless set of type 1 is after that we call it a sort one. Okay. The problem of the Auxel formulate is minimize the single leader is f is the cost function of the leader and such that gxy greater than or equal to 0. Gxy is the constraint of the leader and y is the solution of the follower get formed solved by the general net equilibrium. Okay. Next. In this page of the algorithm 1, in the equation 1, is it's not finite form, right? This when we get y form in this algorithm, minimize y new is the player, right? The small f is the cost function of the follower, and such that, and in equation 3 and 4 is the constraint of the follower. You see this last page, you see we have N0, M0, and NF. N0 is a number of decision of the leader, and NF defined from the summation of the variable of the leader of the follower, and M0 is a number of upper level constraint. Okay, when we get this page, equation 1 and this equation 2, 3, 4, right? They define the constraint set gamma satisfied by this, and its project to the space of the leader variable defined on this, and they setting the function f and g of the leader is continue on the N0 called Rnf, and guarantee that the function of the cost function of the follower is convex and continuous and continually differential on Rn new. And the last, forget the necessary feasible set of each follower is polyhedral, that is, it is defined by a affine linear function. So when the algorithm have this, then we use the KKT condition for solve the algorithm. So from the last page, we show you for the single leader multi-follower game, right? Algorithm is we change the KKT, forget this, equation 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So we have our variable lambda and delta. Okay. Then the remark, the Auxel, they prove that we need import the delta new equal to delta for all new belong to the all of player n, or of the index of the set of player. Then from this, and in the equation 9 and 10, we can, in equation 10, we can derive delta new is delta. Okay, satisfied by this equation 11. You can see it. So we write the form, they minimize the cost function of the leader, and such that gxy is the constraint of the leader, and from this equation to this equation is the get from the problem of for follower and using the KKT. when we write get include that, we get that the equation 11. So we can solve by in this case we know that the single leader in this case it we interest in the case of optimistic solution of single leader multi-follower in this work. So the theorem we can guarantee that the x star y star is the global optimal solution of the single leader multi-follower game of the equation 1. Then there exists a lambda star and delta star, so that x star y star lambda star delta star is a global optimal solution of the problem 11 on the last page. This here in the same solution. And 2, if x star y star lambda star delta star is a global optimal solution of the single level reformulated from the equation 11, then x star y star is global optimal solution of the single leader multi-follower game of the problem 1. So next, show you for so using the short one for help you for solve solution by the problem of the problem 11. Okay, they define lambda nu of I nu and S nu of I nu equal this are the short one, and delta J and Tj equal this is a short one. So you can really call you in the red text in this S new I new, and blue text is the Tj. Indeed a short one. This from you, we change this. Okay, we explain about we explain you by the example. This for example, this is a cost function of the leader, and this a gxy, this constant of the leader, and y so of the player and follower have a 2 player, and this is a problem of the player 1 and this problem of the player 2. In this example, the solution is 1101. So we using the KKT for change the form of the problem for follower problem. Get that, and of the player 1 and this of the player 2 using of the KKT, and include that write together when we formulate by the KKT, right? We write back to the problem. And you can see we consider in this line and in this line at the parameter lambda 1, lambda 2, and this okay, and the parameter when we use the KKT, we get that the parameter when again please, so sorry. We consider in this line for the parameter lambda. Okay, this line, and this line. So we setting the non-negative slack variable S11, this from here is equal here, and S21 is equal here, and S12 is equal here. And when we setting S11, S21, S12, so we get the new problem. Get that this short one, lambda 11, S11, lambda 21, S21, and get the new equation from here, and setting S11 greater than is non-negative, S21 is non-negative in the same way, S12 is non-negative from here. So we get that y, right? Y1, Y2, and Y3. The parameter lambda is lambda 1, 1, lambda 2, 1, and lambda 1, 2. And we get the variable s, obtain the variable s from the sort one, S11, S21, and S12. When we get that, after that, in this work, using the Python interface of the Gurobi for solve this work. So for now, I'm not finished for try to write the code. And future work, we want to try write the code and apply to of this tool for so in the application of the industrial eco park. So we want to show you for the reference of the code for show. I want to show you for the code of this work. ทำไมมันสต็อปไม่ได้วะเปลี่ยนอ่านไม่ได้โอเคโอเค Okay. When we formulate, right, we change the form here, we get the variable s add more, right? So we use the Python interface of the Gurobi for solve this problem. So we import the Gurobi import and setting the model, setting the variable y1, y2, y3, setting the parameter lambda 1, 2, 3, and the variable from the sort one, S1, S2, and S21 is S3, I call. And that's called by, and so this algorithm. Here is for now, I finished for present. So thank you for your attention. Any question or suggestion for me? So for I want to tell you again, for this not my work. This I study of this the work of Professor Daniel Ossel.
Hello. All right.
Yeah, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Did you try running the code?
Again, please.
Have you ever run the code? Did you run the code?
The code. Yeah, but now I cannot write the code.
No. I mean, you run it. Did you run it using Python or you didn't?
Yeah, Python.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
That's if you want to see the code of the example, you can go to this paper, the paper of the reference of this work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay. That for now, I try to write the code, but it's it's error for something. I don't know. Yeah, just for now. Okay, any question? Okay, if no question, thank you for your listen to me. Okay.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for this nice talk. I wanted to ask you something.
Okay, you can ask.
Yeah, so how do you plan to use this
for sort one,
tutorial?
right? Yeah, I want to try the sort one for solve my new idea. This I do it. Yeah, I think this you can use the sort one for solve, help you for solve this many algorithm when you write on the form of single leader multi follower in the case of optimistic problem. that
Okay.
skill you for solve. Yeah.
That's very good. Good.
Yeah. Any else? Okay, I stop share. And next for the next group, I can't remember. I'm not sure who is the next group. The next group is the Solomon, right? Solomon and Abdul Wahab. Are you here?
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Okay, you can start. You can use the Control L, this for full screen.
Okay, can you see it now, please?
Yeah.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Abdulhab Ahmad, and my presentation partner is Solomon Giogis. The topic of our presentation is convergence analysis of the inexact general inertial Krasnozz's Riemann algorithm. And we actually arranged to conduct our presentation based on the following outline. As you can see from the title, in this work, we actually focused on the problem of finding a point in the domain of a nonlinear mapping T, satisfying the condition given in equation 1, known as a fixed point problem, which is actually a very important problem, normally found in different fields of real-world applications, such as in the field of pure and applied sciences. It is used in approximating the solution of image and signal processing problem. And it is also used in finding solution to variational inequality problem. We also use the concept of fixed points in finding the common element in finite family of convex, closed convex subsets of Banach spaces. We also use the idea of fixed points in approximating an element in a closed convex subset of a Banach space when acted on with the bounded linear operator, such that its image will be found in another closed convex subset of another Banach spaces, known as a split feasibility problem. So at this point, I would like to emphasize that whenever we talk about fixed points, one cannot actually escape from there are two or more important concepts which one is expected to be familiar with. The first concept is on the nonlinear operator, for which the fixed point is to be approximated. That is depending on the problem at hand, which are of different classifications, such as the class of contraction mapping defined in inequality 2, with a constant k in the interval 0, 1. And we can see that if the value of k in the interval 0, 1 is taken to be 1, then we have what we call an expansive mapping. The second concept is on the best methods to be employed for approximating such solutions. So up to date, iterative methods remain the best alternative for finding solution to fixed point problem. And the earlier and most popular iterative method for finding solution to a fixed point problem is that of FICAD, defined in 3, which is normally used in guaranteeing the existence and uniqueness of the solution of contraction mapping. And something very important to note here is the recursion formula 3 is generally not applicable when the operator at hand is not contraction mapping. That is, will not satisfy the inequality 2 here. That is, for example, if the operator is non-expansive, then the iterative formula 3 is not applicable. So in order to curtail that situation, that is to solve that problem, restrictive contraction assumption, Krasnodolsky proposed another method in which he suggested that instead of considering the peak contraction mapping T, he suggested to consider the average of the identity and non-contraction mapping T. And another improvement on the Krasnodolsky iterative method has been credited to Schaefer, who suggested to use the convex combination of described in equation 4, where the controlling parameter is taken to be fixed from the interval 0, 1. Man also make an improvement on the Schaefer-Krasnodolsky man iterative methods by considering the sequential parameter instead of the one considered by Schaefer, which is fixed here, with additional condition on the controlling parameter alpha n described in 6. The essence of the additional condition here, 6, is to ensure what we call the asymptotic regularity property, which is not there in Schaefer iterative method. So in general, it has been noted that the convergence rate of man iterative methods is very slow when compared with many other important existing methods. And as we mentioned earlier, that the iterative methods are very, the applications of fixed points is can be found in a vast area of different disciplines. So in order to obtain fast convergence, Pollack in 1964 proposed what we call the inertial algorithm for approximating the fixed points for solving minimization problem, which has been justified numerically by various researchers, that when inertial extrapolation term is incorporated in an iterative algorithm, there is a significant improvement in the rate of convergence of the sequences generated by that particular algorithm when compared with a non-inertial counterparts. For example, in 2008, Mange introduced iterative method 7, which is inertial man iterative algorithm by combining the man algorithm and inertial extrapolation. He also justified that the iterative method 7 converges faster than the iterative method 5. And prove that the sequence generated by iterative method 7 converges weakly to a fixed point of T when the following conditions are satisfied. That is condition B1 to B3. We can easily observe from here that attaining the condition B2 is very strict. Condition B2 here is very strong condition. So in order to get rid of this strong condition, Bott and Tate suggested to use condition C1 and C2 to replace B2 and B3. Convex also consider the following inexact Krasnodolsky man iterative algorithm by considering the fact that in the evaluation of the operator T in each iteration, it actually comes with a particular error. So he added what we call EN to represent the error in the evaluation of this, and he proved the weak convergence of the sequence generated by that particular iterative algorithm with the condition given here, that is summability condition of alpha n and eta n. Okay. No problem. Solomon?
Hello.
Let me continue from what my friend spoke. Point. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me continue from what my
Okay,
friend has
continue.
taught. He has mentioned that Combate considers the convergence of the inexact Kronos schema iteration, which is given by equation 8, and the error term satisfies certain conditions. Okay, there is also another source of error, which is due to the finite precision arithmetic of the computer. So due to that, Patron and others analyze the convergence property of the scheme, which is given by equation 9, where an represents the error in the evaluation of the xn, whereas an denotes the error resulting from the finite precision arithmetic. So to keep the notation simple, they rewrite equation 9 by equation 10, which is given by equation 10, where Rn represents the residual vector. And Kanzo and Shehu also consider the more general inexact scheme, which is given by the equation 11. The difference, you can easily see the difference between equation 10 and equation 11, where in equation 10 we have the coefficients are 1 minus alpha n and alpha n, where the sum is equal to 1, whereas in equation 11, the sum of alpha n plus beta n is not necessarily equal to 1. So this becomes more general inexact scheme. And in 2019, Patron and others come up with this type of algorithm, which is given by equation 12, where they use inertial extrapolation method together with the equation which is given by 11, which is considered by Kanzo and Shehu. And also this Rn denotes the residual vector, as I have said earlier, which represents the difference between the exact Kronos schema iteration and its inexact counterpart. And the control parameters alpha n is chosen in the given manner, and it is also given by equation 13. And moreover, the control sequence alpha beta n and delta n satisfy certain conditions, which are conditions listed here from A to D. Under these conditions, then xn is bounded, and the sequence xn converges weakly to a point of the fixed point, say T. So inspired by the above works, in this work, we are trying to propose the inexact general inertial Kronos schema iteration for non-expansive mapping in the setting of Hilbert space. These are some of the important lemmas that we use in our proof of our theorem. For example, this is common identities which are used in the proof. And this one is also very important, lemma 2, where we have two non-negative sequences satisfying the given condition. Especially if you look at the inequality, second inequality, where we have gamma n plus 1 is equal to gamma n plus beta n. Here, what we have to do is, once we put the expression in this form and we show that the summation of the beta n is less than infinity, it's possible to show that the sequence gamma n is a convergence sequence. So when we say convergence sequence, we are showing, in other words, sequence xn is a bounded sequence. So which will be important result which will be used in the proof of the theorem. The other lemma is where we have non-empty closed convex subset of H, and T is a mapping from C to H, be an expansive mapping. If Xn is a sequence, satisfies that Xn converges weakly to X. So immediately after we show that Xn is a convergent sequence, I mean, a bounded space, if you can see, we can conclude that it's also weakly convergent to some point x in H. And if we can able to show that Xn minus Xn goes to 0, then using these two relations, we can show that X is element of fixed point of T. So this is also very important lemma which will be used in our proof of our theorem. And that's the other lemma is given by lemma 4, where we have a non-empty closed convex surface C of H, and Xn is a sequence in H. Then the sequence Xn converges weakly to a point C. We say the sequence Xn converges weakly to a point in C if two conditions are satisfied. That is, if the limit of Xn minus X as n goes to infinity exists, and every sequential weak cluster point of Xn is in C. So in our previous lemmas will be used to prove the first condition, that is limit of norm of Xn minus X as n goes to infinity. And if we can show that every sequential weak cluster point of Xn is in C, then using these 2 points, we can show that the sequence Xn converges weakly to a point C in C, which is a very important lemma which will be used in our proof. So this is a main theorem that we stated here for our proof. So we have used, as you can see, by algorithm 14, where we have two inertial extrapolation methods y and Zn. The only thing we added is the error term Rn, and beta n and sigma n, I mean delta n. The sum of the two is not necessarily equal to 1. Due to this, we call it general the inexact general Kernel-Scheme iteration. So the conditions are given here in the control parameter, similar to the previous one, but we have two control parameters on the inertial extrapolation, where we have these conditions, and the other conditions are listed in A up to D. Then if these conditions are satisfied, then we conclude that Xn is bounded, and the sequence Xn converges weakly to a point of fixed point of T. So with this, I almost finished my presentation, but in the future, this work is not completed. We are trying to apply it to Douglas Rashford splitting method, and then eventually we can also apply it to image recovery. This is what we are looking for. We are working. So thank you for your attention.
Okay. Any question or suggestion? No. Okay. If no question, thank you for nice present. Nice present. Okay. Thank you. Can you stop your score? Yeah. Okay. For the last group,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Adamu and Mr. Jamilu. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. If you're ready, can share your screen.
Yeah.
And let's start. Mahmoud, I cannot hear you. Okay, I hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me
Who-
try to
Who
share this.
present first? Who present first? You open only one.
Okay, I think
Okay, Mahmoud, can you open again your microphone again? Open only one microphone for you want to
Yes,
use.
I open it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. I hear you
Okay,
now.
let me
And
try to
open your
play.
camera. Okay, I see that. I see.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, no, not see not see your screen. You not share.
Okay, Mr. Jamil, you can share the screen. It seems like my own is not working.
Okay.
So let's wait for Mr. Jamil to share the screen
Mm-hmm.
for our own presentation. Yes, yes, I think the screen is, maybe you can expand it. Okay. So if I say shift, then you can shift. Okay. So can we start?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mr. Mahmoud Muhammad Yaya, and together with me is Mr. Jamil Yahaya. So today we are going to give a group presentation, and the title of our talk is FR and HS type conjugate gradient methods with sufficient descent conditions for vector optimization. So this is the title of the talk, and the idea here is we are going to talk about the following overviews. So in the first segment, we are going to talk about a brief background, followed by some motivations. And subsequently, we will give some very basic theoretical results that warrant us to be able to use some of the iterated approaches to solve these kind of vector optimization problems. And then we will give a brief description of the algorithm, followed by some numerical experiment. And then finally, we will talk about some of the conclusions and a future work that we hope to work on. So move to the next plan. So what we are trying to talk about here is the problem of vector optimization. And this problem is actually not a new problem per se, but it is a new problem in the setting of trying to solve those kind of problems using descent methods. So vector optimization is, as stated here, is simply a generalization of some previous approaches called multi-objective optimization and multi-criteria optimizations. And the idea here is how can we be able to concurrently find or optimize an objective function in such a way that there is no loss in the process of doing the optimization. So mathematically, description of this kind of problem will be stated again. Move. So next. So the problem is actually stated in this equation number 1. So the idea here is we are trying to minimize an objective function, and this objective function is unlike all various forms of objective function. It is simply written in this format, whereby we have to find X in Rn, where Rn is simply an n-dimensional Euclidean space. And F is not just a single objective function, but it's kind of like a concatenation of various number of objective functions. And one difficulty behind this kind of problem is this F1, F2, up to Fm, all of them have a conflicting scenario or have a conflicting pattern. So which probably means in this case, we are dealing with different objective functions and each of which have a different goal to achieve. So this problem is a very difficult problem to solve. And actually, in general sense, there is no way or there is no solution X for which we can be able to optimize this F of X. So one alternative way that this researcher called Pareto in 1906 come up with is with the concept of what people call Pareto optimality. So what Pareto optimality is that instead of in the classical sense of finding the optimality condition or satisfying the optimality condition, we are trying to satisfy what people call optimality, Pareto optimality. And this Pareto optimality is simply saying that we are trying to find X in this F1, F2, up to Fn, depending on the number of objective functions we are trying to optimize, in such a way that there is no one that loses, or that there is no one of the objective functions that fails to, to obtain its goal or fail to get towards the minimizer of what we hope to obtain. So it's kind of like a conflicting pattern. For example, in this F1 and F2, if you have the task of, for example, trying to optimize two goals that are entirely different from one another, or they are fighting one another. So how can we be able to find, the optimal solution for these two conflicting goals? So it's a bit difficult task to achieve. And this F, as we have here in this equation number 1, is actually from C1. And the K here that we are talking about is nothing but a closed and convex cone, which has a non-empty interior. So one of the motivation of this kind of presentation today falls around two very important themes. So the first one is about the application of this kind of problem, number 1. And secondly is with regards to what we are trying to formulate in order to solve the equation number 1. So the first one, which has to do with the application, for example, in this case, as you can see in this figure, imagine in a hospital whereby the radiologists have a patient and the patient is having some kind of like a tumor. So the idea here is how can this radiologist be able to use those kind of machines to be able to, kill those this cancerous tissue without destroying some of the tissue cells of the patient. So you see, it's kind of like two different goals that this radiologist is aiming to achieve for this particular patient. But all of these kind of scenarios, or all of these goals, are very conflicting, because how can you be able to, destroy the cells, tissue cells of the cancer, while at the same time without necessarily destroying the tissues, the other healthy tissues of the patient? So it's kind of like a conflicting problem. And the other application that is useful in this kind of scenario is, for example, in a context of energy, whereby the idea you have two scenarios. Okay, you have the idea of we want to use the power efficiently, but at the same time you don't want to lose maybe a lot of money in the process of using the power. So you have two kind of conflicting goals, and these kind of goals can be written as a multi-objective optimization, and they can also be sufficiently solved via these kind of methods. So in the most iterative way, or the most efficient way of approaching the solution of the problem number 1 is through a descent algorithm-based approaches. So what do we mean by this decency? So we are saying that in general, given a starting point, let's say X naught, so in the descent algorithms, the idea is to be able to generate the following, to find X star through the following recursive formula. So if you look at this equation number 2, we have two very important terms. The first one is alpha k, and then the second one is dk. These two terms characterize the formulation of different kind of iterative approaches. And the first one, alpha k, is called a step size, which normally been obtained even in the classical sense via some line search approaches. And this kind of line search approaches can be extended to this concept of vector optimization, which we will talk about in the subsequent slides. While dk, for example, as you can see in this equation number 3, in a setting of conjugate gradient, is formulated like this. So normally we used to seeing that the direction is defined as the negative of gradient and so on and so forth. But this one, as you can see in this equation number 3, we simply have w of xk when k is equal to 0. And when k is greater than or equals to 1, we have wk of multiplies some term beta k dk minus 1. So this wk of w of xk will be defined in the subsequent slides. So it's kind of like the gradient, negative gradient as we know it in the classical sense, while the beta k here is what we normally differentiate one CG based algorithm over the other. And it turns out it was only recently in 2018 that this kind of approach was introduced into vector optimization setting, where these two researchers by the name stated here, Lucombio and Fuende, were able to extend those kind of parameters, because as I said earlier, this beta k is what characterized one algorithm over the other in the setting of CG. So they were able to use those 4 classical formulations of these algorithms, of these parameters, to formulate gradient descent based algorithms for solving conjugate gradient descent based algorithm for solving this kind of problems. But as they stated in their paper, they were not able to establish one very important property of this kind of method called descent property. or sufficient descent property. So they rely on some approximations to be able to establish the solution of their problem using the methods, but they were not able to establish this very important property. So one of the goals that we hope to attain or we hope to achieve is to be able to, formulate these kind of betas in such a way that this very important sufficient descent condition will be satisfied, and this property will actually be defined in the subsequent slides, as you will see later. This right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoud, for this wonderful introduction and introduction of the concepts of conjugate gradient method in the settings of vector optimization. So as my colleague have earlier stated that the conjugate gradient method was introduced to solve vector optimization problem in the year 2018 by Lucambia, Pires, and Prudenti. But they were able to establish that with the assistance of this important maps, as you can see. This definition of a function zeta, which is given by 4, actually plays an important role. Likewise, there is one important thing that we always consider when trying to establish the convergence in this particular settings. Even in the classical settings, there are some important, or let me say, necessary conditions and possibly sufficient condition in the classical sense. But in these settings, if we can be able to show that the negative interior of the cone K and intersection of the imaginary of the Jacobian of the f of x bar is empty, as you can see in equation 5, then we have what we call the necessary condition. And in particular, if this condition 5 is satisfied, then we say that we have a critical K-critical condition. Then we have the solution. But if in turns that equation 5 is not satisfied, then we can definitely have to apply what we call K-descent direction in order to obtain the solution. Now, this particular definition 6 actually, as you can see, it is being derived from equation 4, plays an important role in defining the concept of conjugate gradient method in vector settings. So one more important maps or thing that we need in the vector settings is the steepest descent direction. The steepest descent direction was extended to vector settings in the work of Drummond, Grana, and Civetta in 2005. As you can see, is given by equation 7. The next equation gives just like a convergence criteria, which we normally use in the numerical settings. So notice that it is important to note that if this map phi is real valued closed and convex function, and D, norm of D square all over 2 is strictly convex, then W of X, which is the steepest descent direction, exists and is unique. It is very important to know that without the existence and the uniqueness of this particular maps, the result may not be as we want it to be. Then one other important property, as my colleague have earlier said, is that as I have said in the previous page or slide, as I have mentioned that in this particular equation 5, if this criteria is fulfilled, then we have a K-critical conditions, then we have the solution. But otherwise, if it is not satisfied, then we have to use what we call a K-descent direction. So a K-descent direction, AD is K-descent direction for F at X if this condition, this inequality holds, that is phi of X comma G is strictly less than 0. And X is K-critical point for F if this condition is otherwise. So one important property that we also use, because in some convergence, even in the classical sense, some method requires the satisfaction of sufficient descent condition for the global convergence to be obtained. So in these settings, in order to obtain a sufficient descent condition, it has to be defined in this form, as you can see by inequality 9. Then one other important thing which we call the line search procedure. There is this line search we call perfect line search or exact line search, which is given by equation 10 in this settings. The other inexact line search are given by equation 12, or inequality 12, and inequality 13 gives what we call the standard Wolff condition. Then in combination with inequality 12 and inequality 14 gives what we call the strong Wolff condition in the vector settings. So if you look at this particular relation 12, you see that we have a partial order there. Now, how do we establish this in the numerical settings? Because there's no way you can just come and say, okay, this partial order, you can write something, you can write less than or equals to or strictly less than or something like that, or equal to. So we have to find a strategy or a way in which you can be able to establish that. So in 2019, the same authors, the Cambio, Pires, and Prudenti, now study the Wolff line search and obtain an equivalence form of this particular relation 12 in the form of inequality 15. So in order to establish the numerical computation of this particular line search, so equation 12 can be replaced by equation 15. Then remember that for any EQ in this satisfying this 11, we have this particular result. Another important definitions, as my colleague have earlier explained, although he did not define it in clear terms, is the Pareto optimality. The Pareto optimality, a point Z in Rn is called a Pareto optimal if it satisfies the condition that there does not exist another point Z in Rn such that f of Z is the list of f of Z bar with respect to the ordering con Q, and f of Z is not equal to f of Z bar. Next, we propose the following beta K parameters. As my colleague have earlier said, the most important thing is whenever you want to establish convergence and you request sufficient descent conditions. So the most important thing is to show the sufficient descent condition first before establishing the convergence, not to assume it. So in the paper of Lucambia, Pires, and Prudenti, they assume the sufficient descent condition for FR and HS. So we seek to address this problem by introducing a variant of FR, as you can see in equation 17, and another variant of HS, as you can see in equation 18. Note that this particular equation 18 can be negative. So in order to avoid negativity of this beta K, we now use the concept of non-negative HS, which is given by equation 19.
Okay, thank you very much for the discussion or the presentation about the theoretical formulations. So my next task is to introduce this algorithm as stated here. So here, as I earlier stated, this equation number 20 in the previous equation. So this is the general setting, or you can briefly say that the CG method generates a sequence using the following iterative approach, or this recurrence formulation. So we have the outline of the algorithm stated next. So the algorithm here is stated as follows. So if you look at the algorithm, it looks like a simple one, obviously, because in general, CG methods are very simple to implement and state. So it has the following steps. The first step is to start with an initial starting point in Rn, and then we initialize the counter of the iteration, followed by some initialization of the line search steps. And then the next step, we have a computation of the steepest descent direction, followed by this stopping criteria, which were previously defined by my colleague. And if this V of xk turns out to be 0, then the algorithm will terminate immediately. So there is no need of going to the next step. However, if it turns out that it is not 0, then we need to compute the next step, which in this case is defined in this equation number 21. However, unlike the previous definition of decay, this 21 has a different formulation of beta k. So where this beta k, as you can see here, is defined in this equation number 17 and 19, as was discussed in the previous slides by my colleague. So in the next step, which is step number 3, is evaluation of the suitable state. So once you have the suitable state, the suitable state in this case, we actually use a Wolff line site-based procedures, which has the following, has some conditions as was stated previously by my colleague. And in the fourth step is the update of the next point. So once you have this dk and the alpha k, you can be able to use the previous point that you started with to be able to update the next point. And here you can, increment the counter and move on. So my colleague will talk about some of the theoretical results as stated here.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoud. As I've earlier said, that it is important to show the sufficient descent condition when trying to establish the global convergence, especially if it is needed in the group. So lemma 1 is trying to indicate that it is a way of establishing global convergence, generally in CG. So this particular lemma talks about what you call the Zoltanic condition. The Zoltanic conditions requires that if suppose that the usual assumptions hold, then we consider the iteration 20 as described by my colleague, with dk being k descent direction. So in this case, not necessarily sufficient descent, but k descent direction for f, and alpha fulfills some Wyckoff line search. So this inequality 22 is what we call the Zoltanic condition in these settings. So the next lemma talks about the sufficient descent conditions satisfied by our variant of FR, which we can see that the sufficient descent condition is satisfied with C equal to this constant. Then the second lemma also consider the algorithm 1 and assume that alpha satisfies some strong Wolff conditions. Then dk defined by 21, that is defined by as defined in the algorithm by my colleague, with beta k defined by 19, which is the modified HS, satisfy the sufficient descent condition with this 1 minus 1 over alpha form. But mind you that C is always positive. So if alpha is less than 1, then we may have a big number. That is why we restrict alpha to be strictly bigger than 1. So the general convergence is given by this theorem, especially for the FR variation. So the theorem considers algorithm 1 with beta k defined by BFR, that is 17, and suppose the usual assumptions hold. So if the Zoltanic condition 22 holds, then we have this equation 23, which gives the global convergence. Then the next theorem talks about, also considers the usual assumption and then considered the algorithm 1 with beta k defined by the modified HS, such that the sequence SK is generated. So it also assumes that alpha k, that is the step size, fulfills some strong Wolff conditions. Then we have the global convergence. So in the first theorem, we use the Zoltanic condition improving the ensuring the global convergence, while in the second one we use what we call property star, because in the HS, as in the classical sense stated by Nusselt in 1992, that if one can use property star in order to show the global convergence of the PRP type, that is PRP, HS, and LS. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the discussion of the convergence. So next, we are going to discuss about the numerical segment. So because of the difficulty of these kind of problems, we actually use a lot of, well-established, well thought out, and well understood problems reported in the literature of this kind of vector optimization setting. So the problems actually were solved via a Fortran. And then we use the normal, PC computer to be able to do this computation. So we implemented this algorithm, and then we solved those stated problems that are there in the literature. So this table, as you can see here, this is kind of like a summary of the results obtained. So for each problem that we considered when solving this, when using this implementation of these algorithms, we have to solve it 200 times. So it's kind of like initializing this X naught that I stated in the algorithm. This X naught is kind of generated randomly. So we generate 200 versions of this initial starting point in a random setting. And then for each of these 200 random points, we will solve the problems that we considered. So there are around more than, I think, 40 problems or so. So each of these 40 problems, there will be 200 points or 200 randomly generated initial points. So after that, the result or the data obtained is being taken, and then we make use of some of the statistical tools to be able to, either take the mean. In this case, actually, we took the median of these results, and then we obtain the following output. This is kind of like a summary of the successful, not successful, and failure as a result of the implementation of this algorithm when solving these kind of problems. So we said that an algorithm is successful if it turns out to be able to solve all these more than 40 problems in all these 200 initial starting points without any failure. So in that case, we say that the algorithm is successful. And as you can see here in this table, it turns out that the problems, the formulations that we came up with were able to solve the problems without any issues. And on the other hand, we say that an algorithm is not successful if it turns out that it was not able to, solve these problems in these 200 randomly generated initial starting points. So if you look at this HS plus, it turns out to not be able to solve 16, even though it solved the problem in some random initial starting point, but it was not able to solve in all the 200 versions. So as such, we have it as you can see here. And then if it is reported as a failure, then it means that it was not able to solve any of the test problems used. So this is in brief what this data, as you can see in the table, is all about. So after that, we have what we call kind of like a tabulated way or a figurative way of trying to describe the performance of this algorithm. So we make use of one tool or one model, or we can call it algorithm if you like, for solving or kind of like, generating these kind of figures, as you can see. So the tool, people normally call it a $number performance profile. So it's kind of like a tool that tries to show or showcase the performance of different algorithms over given test problems. So in this case, we make use of three metrics for comparing these algorithms. So the first one, we use the median of the iterations. And then the second one, we make use of the median of the gradient evaluation, followed by the median of the time it took to solve the problem. So in this figure, we have x-axis and y-axis. So the y-axis is basically trying to give us some cumulative probability. And then the x-axis is trying to describe the values showcased or transformed into a log base 2 base 2, because sometimes you realize that it takes a longer time to be able to solve the problem. So if, for example, in the context of the iteration, it takes, let's say, 50 iterations, so 100 iterations or 100 iterations. So in this case, we have to be able to shrink this data and showcase it in this table. We have to use log 2 base 2 to do that. So in this case, as you can see here, these figures, we have curves here. So the first one, as you can see, which turns out to have around 80% of probability of success, is the HS plus. It's kind of like more efficient in that sense because it has a higher percentage of success, but it is not robust in the sense that it were able to, or it kind of like failed to solve the previous problems that I stated in the table. And the formulation that we have, or we come up with here, which are indicated by MHS plus and MFR, they all were able to solve all the problems, which indicates that they are more robust, right? And then they turns out to have a bit of efficiency as well. If you look at, for example, the red one, unlike the previous formulations out there. So the next figure is also based on function evaluation, which is stated like this, as you can see, similar to the explanation I did earlier. So we have the curves, and in this case as well, the failure of the previous formulations is the one stated in the blue, while our own formulations are robust in the sense that they were able to solve all the test problems. So the third one is based on gradient evaluation, and it also have the same pattern as I stated earlier. So this, can we go? So this brings me to the last part of this presentation, which will be concluded by my colleague.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mahmoud, for this wonderful explanation. The conclusion of this presentation came up with as we have, you can see on the screen that we have proposed two modified CG methods, which is the modified FR and the modified HS plus, and demonstrated that they satisfied sufficient design condition, which is very vital in establishing the convergence of these two modified CG methods. Additionally, we have shown that the global convergence of these proposed methods is possible to establish that. Furthermore, we have established that our proposed method identifies a point that fulfills the first order necessary conditions for Pareto optimality, which is very vital in these settings. We've also presented a numerical experiment as explained by my colleague. And although our algorithms are more robust, the HS plus method is more efficient. Nevertheless, we believe that this is a small price to pay to obtain for the first time the vector versions of the CG methods with a sufficient descent condition. Finally, we are looking forward to the possibility of establishing the sufficient descent condition for the vector versions of the PRP and the Lewis story conjugate gradient methods. Thank you very much for your attention. These are some of the references related, and that's the last part of our talk. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for presenting. Any question or suggestion? No, right? Okay. Thank you for
If
the
you have
night
question,
talks.
ask please.
Okay, thank you for the night talks, everyone. When we finish for the group presentation. For the next week, we start from the individual presentation. Please check the schedule by yourself. I send in the group line.
And my proposal is tomorrow